You're listening to This Week in America with Rick Bratton.
Welcome back, everybody. Great to have you with us on the program today, Coast to Coast, This Week in America. She's known as the teen and parent relationship whisperer. Laura Lyles Reagan is a family sociologist with over 20 years of experience in practical youth development and parenting coaching, assisting teens and families build effective relationships, solve problems, and develop closer ties. A former instructor in the Sociology of Childhood and Adolescence at the University of Texas, Rio Grande, her research has been published in the Journal of Applied Social Science. Her youth development career spanned service at Mexico City, conducting workshops on teen parent communication, substance abuse, bullying prevention, teen suicide prevention. She speaks regularly to parent educators and school social workers, a featured speaker at the 2017 Zen Parenting Radio Conference, and Laura is author of How to Raise Respectful Parents, a practical how-to guide for teens to help them navigate the confusing transition from dependence on their parents to becoming responsible for themselves. Author and sociologist Laura Lyles Reagan joining us on This Week in America. Laura, welcome to the program. It's great to have you with us.
Thanks. Great to be here.
I am
You
looking.
made me sound so good.
Well, you are good, and we're going to have an interesting conversation. The first of, I'm sure, many on the program today. But as I'm looking into the book and your work, this I understand is really, this isn't something that just developed over the last couple of years. This book, you're saying this was really the book you wish you could have read when you were a teenager and dealing with your parents.
Yes. All the book coaches tell you to write, from the heart of what you love and what you're most connected to. And this was very much a passion project.
And talk about that relationship with your parents. You said they were loving parents and you understood that, but you thought they just didn't get you. Is that one of the motivations that got you into studying and developing these techniques that we'll talk about in the program?
In part, I believe that's true. My parents were very young, 21 and 20 when they had me, so they were babies themselves. They grew up in that era where communication was not king yet. It was not the digital age. There was that traditional kind of Mad Men look of life.
Yes.
So Dad went off to work and Mom stayed at home, and her job was caregiving and caretaking. And my mom's excellent at that. The issue is our generation's changed. Technology hit us. We have seen amazing advances since the space age. And our kids are growing up in a very, very different world than what we grew up in. And that feeling of alienation, emotional alienation, has only accentuated as technology's grown.
And it seems like in ways communication is broken down with social media. It's sometimes difficult to get everybody to walk away from the screens and actually talk. And we'll deal with that during the course of the program. We're talking with Laura L. Reagan. Her book is How to Raise Respectful Parents. And people have been trying for years to bridge the generation gap. You talk about co-creation. Talk about how that is different and it actually is very effective.
Indeed. Dr. Sheftali, who is Oprah Winfrey's parent guru on her programming, talks about this generation will only tolerate co-creation. They have grown up with a sense of entitlement, and we can be negative about that, or we can use it to our advantage as parents. I choose to say this is an opportunity to help them grow the tools they need to be empowered, effective communicators. And if they practice with us as parents, they can then translate that to the business world. They're growing up with information that we did not have, and quite frankly, social forces that we did not have to deal with. And it means their communication skills have to grow at levels and probably a faster pace than we've expected in the past.
Right. It's interesting in the book, How to Raise Respectful Parents, we go through the teenage years, adolescence, and these awkward periods in communication with parents, and you talk about preparing the teens, adolescents, for adulthood. And when you think about it, that's really what we're doing, isn't it? It's not just in the now communication. We're really developing them to make that transition smoothly into adulthood.
Right. Often I hear from parents that this desire for respect and they're mirroring what they received as children, which tends to be sort of authoritarian, and that simply does not match what the world that kids are living in today. They need to be able to make good decisions, healthy decisions, and they only get that by exercising those critical thinking skills. And that's what occurs when we require them to communicate with us, when we require them to ask for what they need, negotiate, even over the simplest things. It can begin very, very young. It doesn't even have to be the tween and teen years. It can be as simple as, do you want to wear the red shirt or the blue shirt? Those are empowering choices when you're young, even preschool age, so that kids begin to be verbal early.
Our guest on the program...
I believe that they can influence their world also. That's the biggest issue.
Well, yeah, when they know that, okay, I have some input. I'm not being told something. Maybe you're being presented in such a way that you're going in the direction your parent wants you to go, but you think you've got some part in the process. In fact, you start about that in the book, in the introduction, You Were Not Alone, and you're talking about getting from they to we. Is that the toughest part for let's take it from a parental standpoint, from the parents to understand, because they feel I'm the parent, they're the child, I'm the one that should be making these decisions and guiding decisions. How difficult is it to get from they to we?
I think that is a lifetime struggle in many ways.
Yes.
It's very difficult, but it is the one piece, fundamental cornerstone of everything, is that kids with good self-esteem have that ability to say, I can influence my world. I can exert positive power in my world. And we're not saying to challenge parental authority. That's not what this is. It's not about permissive parenting in any way. It's more, how do I help my child enter this complicated, multidimensional world that is tough on us as adults, much less teens that don't have the defense mechanisms or communication skills yet to be able to maneuver the way that adults do. Plus, they're going to face job markets that we can't even conceive of yet. We don't know what that's going to look like. So the best we can do is arm them with interpersonal skills and a sense of efficacy is what we call it in the field, but it's the ability to exert positive influence in your world.
With us on This Week in America, Laura L. Reagan. Her website is Laura L. Reagan, REAGAN.com. Go to our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and you can link on directly to Laura's website. The book we're talking about is How to Raise Respectful Parents. She is the teen and parent relationship whisperer. As you're listening to the program and read the book, you will understand why. The book, each chapter introduces a new communication skill and has real-world examples. Give us a couple examples and walk us through, because it's not just telling us how to do something. You're giving us examples that I get it now.
Right. And I think probably it can be over any simple item. If kids want the car keys to go on a date one night, they need to approach parents in a way that is obviously respectful, but that communicates a plan, and that they've thought through maybe the emotional implications of that, such as, I did my chores, my homework's done, I feel ready to ask you, Dad, I'd like the keys, and here's why. And Dad can respond with what we call active listening. So I understand that you want the keys for Saturday night, and we have some safety perimeters or some safety issues to discuss, and they can have that conversation. The skills that we talk about are active listening, I messages, which use the feelings list that's in the book, and it's a wonderful way to express to tweens and teens the impact that what they're saying is affecting us as parents, and that creates this empathy quotient, so that kids understand how their communication and actions affect other people. And it's a vital, vital part of communicating. So much happens both verbally and non-verbally.
You mentioned something that I find interesting, and that's the active listening. And I think that's something that that many of us overlook. So often somebody is talking and we're loading our mouth to prepare a response type of thing rather than actually listening. Talk about the power of listening.
Well, it's one of the best marketing skills there is. That's one of the best ways to sell a product, they'll tell you, is listening to the customer. What is it that you need? And before you make any sales pitch, you hear the world that customer is coming from. It's the same way with our kids. And if we hear where they're coming from, what struggles they're having, we get a sense of how they're interpreting the world, which oftentimes we come in with our own assumptions as parents, and we might miss their struggles or even their joys. And those, the ability to hear where their emotional reality is and how they're interpreting the world is what actually builds trust and bond and strengthens bonds, so that when kids are confronting the hard stuff like alcohol and drugs or the opportunities to have an early sexual debut, they're going to lean back on that trust and bond with the parent and open up about it more likely because they've had the opportunity to be heard.
The skills that you're talking about in co-creation, making that transition from they to we, I'm thinking, boy, we could really use that in real life, couldn't we? I mean, adults dealing with adults, we're sort of coming from, it's very obviously polarized now. We're many times coming from totally different angles.
Indeed. In fact, I have, my best friend says, we need this more now than ever, which is, quite an honor to say that. But it's the truth. The better communication skills we can practice, both active listening, I messages, open-ended questions, which are questions that you ask that don't have a yes or no answer but have to be expounded upon. It all suggests that we are leaning in and really giving attention to what this person says, and that communicates value of that person, even if we disagree with them. It's okay to disagree, but don't we live on a time when we need to disagree agreeably? Those are important skills.
Well, one of the chapters is how to handle hot-button issues. We'll talk about that in regards to parents and teens, but it can apply to us in our everyday life. And I think you sort of touched on it before with getting the keys to drive the car. How do you go about doing that? And let's take the internet in particular, because I mentioned that before with social media available out there. When kids are not around parents, they have access to internet, their phones, the whole thing, and then suddenly maybe the rules change. Talk about how we handle hot-button issues like that, in this case in particular, the internet and social media.
Right. One of the things I love about adolescence always also puts kids in danger, and that's that adolescents don't have the defense mechanisms that adults do. And so messages, be they visual, auditory, or even kinesthetic messages, they get through directly. There's no filter there. And so in order to develop that filter and become safe over time, it's my personal opinion that there's no way we should limit in large ways technology, because it's so apparent and so around everywhere. So it's not about yes or no, is it good or bad, that kind of black and white dichotomous thinking. It's more about, okay, how can I involve the role of parent inside what the teen is experiencing in social media, so that there's the filter of the adult in that, and so that they develop that themselves. Hey, this says you can go to Cancun for $100. Is that what other sites are saying?
Yes.
Is that realistic? Does that measure up with what I'm saying, or is it just one of those too good to be true things? And helping kids filter through scams and information, and even scam artists, is part of the role, I think, as parents. So for me, in my parenting of my teen daughters, it was not so much about limiting their time on the internet. Of course, they had to have homework done and
exactly
the priorities of life done first. And I had control of the password, so they didn't automatically get that. It had to be earned. So we had some structures in place that were protective of the priorities of life. But once they were on, I wasn't, how would I say? I didn't operate from a place of fear because I wanted to have them grow their skills to make the determining decisions about proper filters. So it was a matter of just being in the room, and inevitably one of my daughters would say, "Hey, check out this video," and we could talk about it. One of my daughters is totally into horses, and she would inevitably show a barrel race or a jumping contest, and we could talk about her interests. So it was very benign, but slowly over time she began to learn, what sites were safe and what sites were good, and what was bogus, and then what chat rooms may or may not be safe. And early on, for the tween years, we made sure that internet exploration happened in a family room and not in a bedroom, so that there were some safety protocols there too.
The book is an excellent read. Our guest on the program, the teen and parent relationship whisperer, Laura Lyles Reagan. The book is called How to Raise Respectful Parents. A couple of minutes left in the program. Book, by the way, available wherever books are sold all across the country. And, of course, at Laura's website, which is Laura L. Reagan, REAGAN.com. Click on directly by going to our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Since you've been using co-creation, it has to be rewarding when you see changes. The book has been, I'm sure, in many cases, transformational for families, easing that time that can be one of trepidation for both parents and teens as they go through that together. It has to be rewarding to see, like, wow, we get this. This whole concept really works.
Yes, thanks. I've had some wonderful feedback from parents, librarians, teachers. Everyone's saying that this is the way to go. This is how to prepare our kids for the future. And teens are feeling heard, and that's the biggest thing, is that when they take, we want them to be responsible, but then oftentimes we hold them back by doing things for them and are not expecting a mature behavior out of them. And it's empowering to teens when they're expected to communicate in a respectful, professional manner. It reaps its own reward.
Well, the book is really a must-read for anyone dealing in a parenting situation with teenagers, and sort of a must-read for everybody. Like I say, in society now, co-creation, going from they to we, is very important. The book is called How to Raise Respectful Parents. With us on the program, the author Laura Lyles Reagan. The website is lauralreagan.com. Information on our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and you can link on directly to Laura's website by going to our website as well. The first of many programs we'll have with Laura, a really interesting and important topic. Laura, thank you so much for being with us on the program.
Thank you, Rick.
It's been a pleasure having you with us. Laura Lyles Reagan, our guest. Information available at our website, thisweekinamerica.us. And we're back right after these messages.